Have you ever felt like life is completely out of control? For me, I have several times in my life, but I think right now it just feels really funny because I think that the perimenopause is actually affecting me so much. And I've talked about this a lot, but I feel like there are a lot of things that we can do. So let's talk about a couple of habits that I have started that have had a huge impact on my life. And yes, some of them are routines. Don't go running. I know you might be like, oh my gosh, routines. Everybody's talking about routines. They're helpful. Routines are good. There's other things like automating things. Let's dive into it. Okay. I know routines might sound boring. I totally get that. And I used to feel like that too. But ask any cat or dog, and they're going to tell you routines are really, really helpful. And my morning routine is something I am borderline obsessed with. And I think everybody has sort of like a way that they tackle the morning. Like for me, I used to get up, have some toast, have some tea, get the kids ready. And when they were a little bit older, then I would watch YouTube or TV. But I realized that that was not necessarily how I should be starting my day. And now that I'm in my 40s, my kids are teenagers. It's summertime. I basically at like 12 o'clock have to go and shake them up if I hadn't already woken them up sooner. So here is how I start my day. And it has just made such a difference. I'm not going to get into making the bed or any of that. I've talked about that in the past, and I don't necessarily, that's not really what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about like how we can really embrace this stage of life to be as more simple living as possible and restorative, because I truly believe that perimenopause and all of the midlife stuff, all the craziness that comes with it, I think a lot of that is designed to get us to slow down and to be more introspective. Now, a lot of people, they love to journal. And I don't think journaling is terrible. I just have never been good at it. When I was a kid, I tried having a diary, and I have found a couple. There's a lot of talk about boys, maybe a bit of arguments with my parents or, discussions with my brother, but nothing too interesting. And I never was good at it for long. I just don't love it. And I have some friends, they love journaling. Instead, what I do now is I read my Bible in the morning. And I'm going to be honest with you, I had been thinking about that for years, but it wasn't until recently where I just really was put on my heart to do that. So I read the Bible, and it is eye-opening. It's amazing. And this is not a Bible talk video. I'm just saying this is just one of the ways I start my day, because it's a really great way to sort of get myself centered and to get my brain to focus, because at this stage of life, it's hard to get my brain to focus. So that is the first thing that I do after I get my cup of tea. Drink my tea, and then I have that. And then I read the Bible. The next thing I do is I have a healthy breakfast. I mentioned before that I would have tea and toast, and I still have tea, but I now at this stage of life, I'm trying to be much more mindful about my blood sugar. In fact, let me show you something. I don't have diabetes, but I am wearing a glucometer right now. I do it every couple of months because it's a great opportunity to just sort of get some insights in how our food is affecting us. Because, for example, I was drinking this delicious tea from David's Tea for years called Valerian Nights. It's so good, but I didn't realize it had sugar in it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got like these blood sugar spikes. Crazy. So now what I do, and my kitchen is messy, I'm not going to lie. I got teenagers that cook that night. My pantry needs to be cleaned. I make overnight oats, but I actually do it in the morning. I put them in the freezer and with a bit of water for about half an hour while I'm reading the Bible. And then I take them out, I mix in protein powder, I mix in my vitamin D, because vitamin D, taking that has just changed my life. So anyway, I do that, and that is my breakfast. Small bite of natural peanut butter, and then another cup of tea. Because I feel like having a strong morning routine is so helpful. Now, if I am working as a nurse for the day, which I'm doing less and less, but if I am working as a nurse for the day, what I do instead is I will take my breakfast with me and eat it right when I get to work before I start, because I just like to have that. I do sort of like an intermittent fasting thing where I go about 12 hours without eating, because a lot of science has shown that most of the studies were done on men for intermittent fasting, and it's better to sort of just have like around a 12-hour window. So that is what I do for my morning routine. It's pretty straightforward. And then if I'm working at home for the day, I relax until around 10. A lot of people, when they work at home, they just hit the ground running. They start like 6 a.m. My great friend Lindsay, the relationship coach, who a lot of you have seen, that's what she does. But I prefer to just have a slower start to the day. And I think it is so nice to just sort of do what your body naturally wants. Now, if you work out of the house, you do what works for you. But I'm telling you, initially when I started doing like reading the Bible in the morning, I was not into it. I had tried meditating. I had tried, and first of all, I was like kind of like too sleepy to do that. And it just felt better. Like I was being led to just sort of like have that Bible time. And actually, funny enough, I will get into my bedtime sleep routine, but it's not, even if we're trying something new and we're not loving it, it's kind of funny how quickly you can adjust to it in a good way. Now, it might sound like my day really just surrounds when I drink tea, and that's not exactly a lie. It just stops around 1:30 p.m. because if I drink tea beyond that, then I'm going to have trouble sleeping. But the other thing I do, so after I have like my breakfast and whatever, and then I start work around 10 a.m., I will have another cup of tea. And then I'm going to tell you all about my midday routine. I make a delicious salad every single day. And it has been so amazing. And yes, I do this in January when a lot of people aren't feeling like having salad. It's just become part of my routine. I could potentially consider having like soup or something. I just haven't. So I basically, and I would love to say that getting, having my own homegrown lettuce from my beautiful garden is what I do, but I suck at growing lettuce. So for the most part, I just get a big bag of the lettuce from Costco and I wash it and then I vacuum seal it into jars, and that keeps it fresh so long. In fact, I had a jar just the other day that the seal came loose in the fridge, so it was like fine, but it had already started rusting. Meanwhile, one that I opened like the next day or 2 days later was not rusted at all. So it keeps your lettuce fresh for weeks and weeks. It's so awesome. So that's one thing I'll do, because what I have done, and I've talked about this before, like Glucose Goddess, I forgot to mention this. I eat a cucumber before breakfast every morning. I was having peppers, but I have rosacea and peppers and tomatoes aggravate it, which is a real bummer. I still will eat them, but I just don't eat as much. So when I'm having my salad, that is a great way of getting more fruits and vegetables in. Well, vegetables. And actually, I will put like a little bit of cranberries on too sometimes. So I'll have a delicious salad. And I have canned up some salmon and some chicken, which means I always have protein ready to go. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm kind of tired of those right now. So I've put the brakes on it, but what's great is it will last for a long time and it's there. Like if ever I'm like, I don't have any protein, I can go and grab those, or I will make egg bites. So basically my habits that are really supporting me is having like a streamlined diet, right? I basically eat first 3 meals of the day because I basically have 4 meals. First 3 meals are so similar, and it just makes such a difference. So eating that, and then it's really nice to just go for a walk. I'll go for a walk in the garden, or I will, if the weather's not great, I'll just sort of like sit and relax quite often, and I'll have a cup of tea. And then what I'll often do is I will go and lie down in bed. And I've talked about this before, that it's just, I call it thinking time, but it's just so nice to have that little bit of quiet time. And every time I do it, it just takes me back to being a little kid and going and having nap time. And I remember, like, in fact, I have a great friend, her name is Chelsea, and she has a great YouTube channel called Little Mountain Ranch. She takes a nap every day. And I was like, yes, like I don't even nap usually. I just lie there and it's just so good. Like that quiet time feels so great. So these are things I never did before. And if I am working a shift as a nurse, when I have my lunch break, which is about an hour with the job I do because I do wound care. When I have my lunch break, I will eat my lunch, which is a salad, and then I will just usually there's a recliner, and I will just recline and close my eyes, grab a heated blanket because, or a warm blanket, healthcare centers, we have these amazing warm blankets that feel so good. That is my favorite thing as a nurse, is giving people those blankets, because it just makes them feel so good, so loved, so warm. So many people, they're like, oh, this just reminds me of my mom or my grandma or whatever. So I will just relax, close my eyes. I set my watch. I put my AirPods in. I don't actually usually listen to anything, but it's just because I don't want to talk. I want to just like relax, because sometimes people want to catch up. So that is what I do. I have like my morning routine, my lunch routine, and in the afternoon, I work for a few more hours when I'm at home or as a nurse, and then I come home and then I have a workout, and I have a pre-workout snack, which is usually like some carbohydrate, um, fruit or something. Like, I love to get as much fruit and vegetables in as I can, because here is a real game changer for us perimenopause or postmenopausal people, is that if we get 30 different kinds of plants in a week. Now, I know that might be like, what? But no, 30 different kinds of plants, which could include spices, garlic, anything that was planned can count in this. But so, for example, look at Crumpet. Crumpet, you want outside? And I will even, like, in my phone, sometimes I'll just keep track of, like, I'll put like anything I put in my salad, like lettuce, olives, kale, anything that's in the salad dressing, lemon, oregano. I put all of that in there. And I mean, you're not going to count lettuce 3 times. You want like a variety. And this all has to do with the probiotics that are in the food, because it's so good for your gut microbiome, which is also, so that's another great reason why I love to have fruit as a pre-workout. And what's great in the summer, like it is now, there's just like an abundance of fruit. So right now I'm having cherries. I'm having strawberries from the garden. So good. I'm having like fresh peas from the garden. Absolutely amazing. That's my pre-workout. Then afterwards, I have my shake, which I've talked about before. I put milk in it, protein powder, and blueberries, and a couple of macadamia nuts. The fat is good, and it's delicious. And I'm done tea at 2. So at this point, I've basically just moved on to fizzy water, because I love fizzy water. Now, I started exercising about 6 or 7 years ago, and it has made a huge difference. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, and it can be anything, right? Like, walking is so good for you. And at this stage, because like for me, perimenopause started hitting when I was around 38 or 39, and I didn't realize it. And it's a good thing I started working out around then. If not sooner, would have been better. But what I do is I will do, like, I love Olivia Lawson. Her workouts are good. And I do weightlifting. These are things that have made such a major difference for my body and my life, my mental health. I think my mental health actually is like by far mostly benefiting it. But even my body, like my flexibility, is incredible. Dinner is usually in our house like pretty healthy. It often is, like a vegetable, some kind of meat. Quite often it's a salad or a bowl. And I love like What's Gabi Cooking, Half Baked Harvest. All of these guys have awesome, awesome recipes. And this is sort of like, it feels good when I eat something healthy. Last night, I'm not going to lie, it was Canada Day. We had hot dogs. I did have a salad first with fresh peas from the garden and hot dogs. And you know what? That's okay. Like, whatever works for you. Now, I mentioned that I was drinking valerian tea at night, and I love it. It is so yummy. I had to deal with that tea drawer. We'll make a video on it on the other channel. This is the valerian tea. It's so good. Like, it's like, I guess it's like a coconut flavor. Oh, gosh, it smells so good. But it does have sugar in it. Now, I'm not saying I don't ever drink it, but then I started drinking chamomile tea, and I wasn't, like, I didn't like it. I mean, I liked it, but I wasn't like, this is a treat. Because for me, all of these tea breaks that I have every day, they are all about like a treat. Like, I want it all to be an enjoyable treat, a break. I always talk about rewarding myself on my other channel. And whenever we do work. And like for me, I'm like, am living today. This is worth celebrating. I want to reward it, or I want to reward myself. So now what I realize is I just want to have a little bit of milk. It might sound weird, but it's not. I add a bit of milk in my chamomile tea. Within like 2 days, I was like, that's what I want to drink. I don't even care that it's not valerian anymore. Like, it's so good. And then as for my wind down routine, I stretch before bed. I love doing a nice stretch before bed. I was doing yoga. I'm kind of getting away from that a little bit, just like spiritually, just sort of like investigating if that's something I want to be doing. But instead, what I've just started doing, since I'm not doing the yoga stretches, doing some other stretches for mobility. I think mobility is so valuable. My hips used to be so tight, and now they are so much better. And I think it truly is because I basically have been stretching every night for like 3 years. So doing that, then now people say not to keep a TV in your room. Now, here's the thing. My husband and I, we love to snuggle and watch a show, and he puts his head on my lap and we watch a like half hour of something because usually he falls asleep. And then what I do is I read my Kindle. My Kindle has a great yellow kind of background light so it doesn't keep me up. And then I turn it off and I go to sleep. So those are my simple routines, is making sure that I eat well, getting that exercise, that spiritual practice, that stretching, enjoying time with my family, enjoying time with my cats. It's amazing. Check out this video here. This is all about some of the struggles I've been having, and you can see how like these routines have made such a difference for me.